Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are going to be talking about Luminosity Makes Big Moves 2025, which is going to be the first major of the year alongside Mesuma Top 1. And you have pretty much all of NA's top talent showing up, as well as Hurt making the trip down from the pond. And for your top 16 seeds, you're going to have Riddles, Wrath, Mars, and Luis in 13th, Onin, Shattuck, Lima, and Cola in 9th, Syrup and Zomba in 7th, Leo and Tweak in 5th, Light in 4th, Hurt in 3rd, Sonics in 2nd, and projected to win the entire thing is Spargo. Starting off with Spargo, and I'm going to be fairly brief with his segment just because I'm pretty sure that Spargo is going to be coming through on the winner's side. He's got Elihuman first, and I just favor Spargo versus every sword character, even if it is a weird one like Shulky. Then you have probably Loaf, and I would expect Spargo to win that one. You do have some very nice drift from Wario, which is decent against Cloud, but at the end of the day, you are still fighting against a massive sword with your face, and his most likely opponent is Wrath. There is a possibility for Mutace, and if Spargo is going to get upset, it's probably going to be to Mutace. Mutace has beaten him in the past. He has the microspacing good enough to beat someone like Spargo, but I don't think Mutace is going to beat Wrath. I think that matchup is really difficult for Peach, especially since the Mutace hasn't been playing at his best recently, and I think you need to be at your best if you're going to be a Sonic player in any context, but especially as Peach. So I do think that Wrath would win that one, and I'm pretty confident that Spargo would beat Wrath just considering his reps versus Sonics. Next up is going to be Zomba, and his first opponent is likely going to be DJ Dawn, and I definitely favor Zomba there. I think he's good versus Steve, but I also think Rob is good versus Steve, so the two just go really nice together there. And then you're going to have Zomba versus either Wilds or WebJP. Now, I would favor Zomba versus WebJP, even though I do think Sheik is pretty good against Rob, and I would favor Zomba versus Wilds, but there is definitely a high possibility for an upset there, considering that Zomba lost to Skeleton at, I can't remember what event it was. I think it was Let's Make Moves Miami, but he ends up losing to Skeleton in the winner's side. So I think that since then, Zomba has probably said, okay, I need to maybe relearn this Kazuya matchup, make sure that that doesn't happen again. And because there's been so much time since he lost to Skeleton, I think Zomba's going to have done his homework, so he shouldn't lose to Wilds. But that is definitely something that he needs to look out for, because I do think that Wilds is a little bit better than Skeleton. He's probably the best Kazuya player in America, aside from, obviously, Riddles. So, something that Zomba needs to look out for, but I'm giving him credit that he has done his homework since losing to Skeleton and saying that he is going to win that one. But if he doesn't win that one, I want to make the very important distinction that I think Onin will beat Wilds. By the way, I just think Onin is going to make it through here. I would heavily favor Onin in this video. And the last time we saw Tilde play Onin, he gave us the worst DI I have ever seen, so I just don't have faith until I see it, unfortunately. So this should be on making it to this top 16 qualifier. And if it's against Zomba, again, I think Zomba should win that one, because I think Rob is good against Steve, and I think Zomba is good against Steve. It's just a great combo. But if it's Wilds, I do think that Onin will beat Wilds. So just so there's no confusion, I think Zomba is going to beat Wilds. I think Zomba is going to beat Onin. I think Zomba is going to move top 16 through the winner's side. But there is a high possibility that Wilds makes the upset over Zomba. I'm talking like 55-45, very real chance. And if that happens, then I think Onin is going to make it through winner's side. But we're going with Zomba. Next up is going to be Light. His first opponent is going to be Kalito, and I could not for the life of me find anything about this player unless they are a Dr. Mario player from Germany. So assuming this is the Dr. Mario player from Germany, I think Light's going to win. But even if it isn't, I still think Light's going to win. After that, he's going to have likely Karama or Epic Gabriel. Now, I would expect Light to come out on top against both of these opponents. I think Fox is pretty good against Robin. Also, you just have a lot of experience in that matchup for Light. And I just don't think that Karama is going to be at the level of play where he actually is able to get that win over Light. He's never beaten Light in the past, even when he was super active, one of the best players in the world, and he's taken a massive step back. So I honestly think Epic Gabriel is more likely to win the set than Karama is, and I just think Light will beat both of these players. But then you have the top 8 qualifier, or top 16 qualifier, I should say, for Light, and this is where it gets really interesting. You could have Icon making a little bit of a run to Light, and that could be a bit of an issue for him, but I don't think that's going to happen. I do think that DeBuzz will be Icon, and then we have DeBuzz and Riddles. And this one is a little bit of a toss-up. If you're Light, though, you want DeBuzz to win this one. He's got a really good record against DeBuzz, and I would just definitely expect Light to win that one. If you're Riddles, I would still expect Light to come out on top, but I do think that Riddles has a better chance, specifically with the Terry. I think Terry does pretty good against Fox, at least going even against that character, and even seeing Riddles have a lot more success with him recently. So if it's Light and Riddles, I still think that Light would win, but that's, like, again, really close, 55-45, 49-51, like as close as it gets. But if it is Light versus DeBuzz, then I would expect Light to win that one. And between Riddles and DeBuzz, I think Riddles is more likely to come out on top, just because he's been playing a lot more, and his Terry has actually been looking pretty good, and we just haven't seen a ton from DeBuzz. So I think Riddles is going to win this, and I think Light is going to win this set between Riddles, but it should be really close. Next up is going to be Tweak, and I'm also going to be a bit brave for him because let's just say the Cedars wanted the 3-peat to happen, but I can't really blame them. His first opponent is going to be up against Chunky Kong, and if Tweak has done his homework, he's typically studious. He should be fine. DK does blow you up in one hit, but you blow him up in one hit, and Tweak hits a little bit easier than Donkey Kong does, or Diddy Kong, I should say. Then you're going to have Mr. E versus Tweak, and to Mr. E's credit, I actually think he's been looking really good recently, but I still think that Tweak will win this one just because Diddy Kong versus Lucina is a pretty difficult matchup for Lucina, and I also think this Tweak is really good against sword archetype characters. And then finally, speaking of a sword archetype, you're going to have Tweak versus most likely Shattuck. It could be Candle, or honestly Beastly. If Beastly gets this upset over Candle, he's got a pretty good chance against Shattuck, but I definitely think that Tweak is going to win the Ditto. Olimar's a little bit scary, but considering that Tweak has done pretty good against Shootone in the past, I think he should be fine. And then for Shattuck, I'm definitely favoring Tweak to win against Shattuck, just considering that Tweak was like the one guy that Shattuck could not beat. Even when he was farming, everyone beat Spargo, beat Light, beat Mia, beating everyone in the world. Tweak was the one person, the last bastion, that he just couldn't get past, and he's had a little bit of a drop-off since he was farming everyone, so I don't expect him to beat Tweak at this event. Now, do I think that Tweak is going to beat Shattuck forever? No. There is going to be a point where Shattuck figures it out. I just don't think it's this event. Next up is going to be Sonics, and I think he should be fine up until this winner's semis. Against Oolong, he really shouldn't have any troubles. You're just rushing down Wii Fit before she can even set up the deep breathing. I think Sonic destroys Ness, and considering this experience that Sonics has against Tweak, he should be fine against Diddy Kong as well, so neither of these players should be a problem. But then you get to either Luis or Beast Mode Paul. And I think both of these people have a chance against Sonics. Now, I think Beast Mode Paul is more like a 65-35. You definitely need luck to be on your side against Sonic. Have some of those spells come out in crucial moments. But for Luis, not only do I think he's going to beat Beast Mode Paul just because I think Palutena beats Hero, but I also think that Palutena does decent against Sonic. I'd still say it's slightly in Sonic's favor, but just slightly. That teleport cancel is actually super useful for Palutena while recovering. And I also think Luis is incredible against Sonic. So I think this is like a 55-45. He absolutely has a chance to win this one. As long as Luis just commits to his game plan and has confidence that the game plan is going to work, he can do it. But what's most likely to happen is that Sonic just makes top 16 through the winner's side. Next up is going to be Syrup, and his first opponent is likely going to be up against Osh9, and I don't really know Me Brawler versus Steve. I assume it's not good for Me Brawler. I feel like he would have a really hard time not only getting in against the character, but also just breaking the blocks to even try getting in against Steve. So I would say that Syrup definitely wins that one. Then you got Syrup versus Omega, and I know they played recently at a B-tier tournament where Omega ended up beating Syrup, but Syrup reset the bracket against him and ended up winning it over him. So because of that, I am going to have Syrup over Omega, but that should be a very close set. I think Joker does good enough against Steve where you should have the resources to get that dub in your court. I mean, he's literally done it before, so it's definitely not impossible to do it again. But I would expect Syrup to win that one, maybe like 55-45. And I actually think that Syrup is going to get upset by Lima if he does manage to win that set over Omega. I should say, if Jackal has his like Jackal run of the year, he has one tournament a year where he's just like God. If that's this tournament, then obviously I think Jackal's going to beat Lima and Syrup. But if that's not this tournament, then I think that Lima should have a pretty good shot against Syrup because the bracket is kind of nice for him. He has a warm-up right beforehand in Phantom, who is a fairly competent C player. You're going to have to at least beat someone who's good at the character before you get to the final boss. And he has lost more so to Syrup Steve than he has beat Syrup Steve, but it's not like he's never beaten Syrup Steve. It's not an impossible task. I think Bayonetta does pretty good in that matchup if you play it right, and Lima plays it right, in my opinion. He's very patient. Once the C player gets the resources, he understands that he no longer needs to approach. And if Lima keeps that compassion, or not the compassion, well, yeah, the compassion, but the tension and the prowess that he had at GSM, then honestly, I think he's going to be able to get this done. Next up is going to be Hurt, and his first opponent is likely to be up against No Tag, and he should be fine there just considering that he has beaten Snow in some of their recent encounters. Now, he's also lost to Snow in some of their recent encounters, but I don't think No Tag is at that level quite yet, so Hurt should win that one. Then you got the Snake Ditto between MVD and Hurt, which should be an absolute banger, and I would say that I would definitely favor her in terms of grenade control because that's the thing that he is best at in the entire world. That's the reason that he is the best at, is because his grenade control is so good. But I do think that MVD is still one of the best users of C4, and Nikita specifically, which I do think is important in the Ditto. So very curious to see how that plays out, but Hurt should come out on top. And then you have Hurt versus either Mars or Peanut. And I actually think both of these players would make the upset over Hurt. For Mars, you're going to have one of the best, if not the best player in the world against Snake on Zero Suit Samus. And normally, I think ZSS probably goes even against Snake. She's good in the disadvantage, but she doesn't hit hard enough. Or she's good in the advantage, I should say, but she doesn't hit hard enough. Mars, when he plays that matchup, it's at least +1 for ZSS. The disadvantage is miserable for Snake. You literally can never escape. The grenades are pretty much his. He's getting way more value out of them than you are. He's never going to get hit by a C4. It's impossible to edgeguard the character. It is just so good for ZSS when Mars is controlling the sticks. But if it's not Mars, if it's Peanut, then you're gonna have Peanut versus Cirque. These guys have played before. They ended up trading sets at the Cirque CFL and Invitational weekend, and I think this matchup is really bad for Stake in the hands of any Mega Man player, but especially in the hands of Peanut. That's like a -2, -1.5. So who is going to win the set between Mars and Peanut? That's really the determining factor. And they've played twice before, both at CEO, funnily enough. But this is data that really doesn't matter. It's 2 years old, basically 3 years old at this point. But Peanut managed to take Mars to game 5 before he was like really like a high top level player. Like Peanut had a clear like boom. He just got like really, not one day, he just got really good. Obviously, he was always that good and just proved he was really good one day. But Peanut's results took a massive rise. He started getting way better. And Mars has kind of had the opposite where he hasn't gotten better. He's gotten worse, if anything. So the fact that Peanut has improved exponentially and Mars hasn't improved as much make me think that despite the matchup not being the best for Mega Man, Peanut is going to be able to get that dub. And after that, he's also going to get that upset over Hurt. And our final top 16 qualifier through the winner side is going to have MKLeo as our top seed. And his first opponent is up against PK Chris. Now, I think that match was pretty difficult for Ness, but shout out to PK Chris. He actually has been killing it recently, but I don't think he's going to win this time around. Then you're going to have MKLeo versus Shinji. And I don't really know the intricacies of Joker versus Pac-Man. I feel like Pac-Man would be pretty good at dealing with Gun just because Hydrant could get in the way, but I also feel like Joker would be able to get a lot of use out of Rebel's Guard, especially MKLeo's Joker. So I think he should be fine in that matchup, and his most likely opponent after that is going to be Cola, though low-key, shout out to Brujo, though. I don't think he's going to beat Chase just because Palutena K-Roll doesn't seem winnable, but he's like actually cracked, and he's been doing pretty good recently. And Cola should win this set between Chase. Maybe Chase pops up super hard, but I would imagine it's Cola. And Cola has won his last 2 encounters against MKLeo. Now, one of them was like at Collision 2024. This was more recent than I thought. So he has won his last 2 encounters up against MKLeo. But I am still going to be going with Leo to win this one. And hear me out. I think Leo has looked incredible in these last couple months. And that did not include Collision. I don't think he was playing his best around that time. But he looked genuinely amazing in these past couple months. And I just think Cola was like the best player in the world that day. The Luminosity Invitational 2, I don't think you could have put anyone on the planet that would have beat Cola. He was just unbelievable. I don't think he's going to be playing like that this time around. And I think MKLeo is going to get the dub. And we have finally arrived at that top 16. The only upsets y'all got to worry about is that I have Lima over Syrup and Peanut over Her. Starting off with Spargo versus Zomba. And they haven't played in a little bit. Last time they played was the Luminosity Invitational, where they end up trading sets. And even prior to that, they were trading sets back and forth. So it's not really clear who is the favorite in this set. But I'm going to say that Spargo is the favorite in the set. Not only because he has the matchup in his favor, I definitely think that A just beats Rob, but also form-wise, I do think that Spargo has been definitely better in these past couple months. He's been looking like the best player in the world, where Zom was just falling shy of that top 20. Definitely a possibility for Zom to make that upset, but it's going to have to be an upset. Then you're going to have Light versus Tweak, and I'm pretty confident that Light is going to win this one, even though it's Tweak at LMBM, and it feels weird, right? Just betting against Tweak at all for me, but especially betting against him at LMBM, but Light has beaten Tweak in their last 4 encounters. What used to be a very back and forth thing is just not a back and forth thing recently. Light has just been very clearly dominant. So until I actually see Tweak take out Light, I'm just going to be going with Light to win that one. Next up is going to be Lima versus Sonics. And ironically, I think Sonics is probably going to be the one who is approaching in this set. Bayonetta is really good at setting the tempo, and specifically Lima is amazing at setting the tempo. One of the best players in the world at doing so. But unfortunately for him, Bayonetta against Sonic is really tough for Bayo because Sonic is actually able to make that distance against Bayo. So usually Bayo would be playing just outside of your burst range, waiting for you to make a mistake. But Sonic is instantly in Bayo's burst range, and he's also able to punish her if Bayo does like a side B right next to Sonic. In most case scenarios, she might be able to get away, but Sonic is going to track her down. He's not going to let her get away with any of that stuff for free. So it's going to be really hard for Lima. He's going to have to make sure that he's playing incredibly. Like, obviously, you're going to have to be playing incredibly to beat Sonic's, but he's just going to have to consistently out-neutral this guy when Sonic's neutral is a little bit better than Bayo's, in my opinion, which I think is going to be extremely tough, but I also think it's extremely doable. Lima has been playing incredible recently. It feels like every single time he plays against Sonic as well, he gets closer and closer. So I think Lima has a genuine chance in this set, despite the matchup being pretty bad, but I still think that Sonic's is definitely your favorite. And then finally, for your top 8 winner side, you're going to have Peanut versus MKLeo. And I think that Peanut is going to make the upset right there. If y'all remember, it's from a while ago, like 2019, 2018, but Mega Man was MKLeo's most hated character, and it wasn't even close. He hated Mega Man. He struggled versus Kameme, and there's no reason in my brain that makes me think that he would have ever learned how to play against Mega Man. Like, over quarantine, I doubt he grinded against Mega Man, and it's not like there was any top Mega Man players, especially in America, that he really had to worry about. But with Peanut now, I'm afraid that Leo's not going to have done his homework, and even if he has done his homework, I think Mega Man does really good against Joker. Pellets are super good at disrupting the gun, just ruining that general flow for Joker. So I think this is absolutely an upset that Peanut is going to take. And y'all know the drill at this point. We don't do the loser side of the bracket just because the majority of these matchups are not going to be happening. So I've taken the players that are most likely the top 8, and we have given them their percentages. You got the confidence here with Spargo, Light, Sonics, and Peanut, and those are the guys that picked the top 8 for the winner side. Then somewhat confident with Leo, Lima, Hurt, and Luis, and those are the people I picked the top 8 for the loser side of the bracket. Specifically, you got Leo topping through this normal part of the bracket right here. His most likely opponent is either Onin or Riddles. Probably Onin. I would favor Steve versus those FGC characters. And I think Leo is actually pretty good against Steve in recent memory. He does have the Byleth, which he could go, but it's probably going to be the Joker. And if he's able to get value on Rebel Scars, I think he should be able to win that one. And if anyone gets value on Rebel Scars, it is MK Leo. Then you're going to have Lima getting top 8 through this part of the bracket right here. Remember, I think he's going to upset Syrup, and I do think he's going to lose to Sonics. And I also think Shattuck is the most likely opponent here. It could be Wrath, but I do think that Shattuck should win this one. And Lima historically does very good against Shattuck. The matchup is really, really bad for Corrin, and he should win that one. Also considering that Shattuck has been playing his best and Lima has been on fire recently. Then you're going to have Hurt getting top 8 through this part of the bracket right here, because again, he's going to get upset by either Peanut or Mars. Doesn't really matter to me. And this could be Lima or Syrup. Honestly, I would favor Hurt in both of those encounters versus Lima is probably a little bit easier. He is very good against Steve, which is nice for him, but I'm pretty sure that Syrup wouldn't play Steve. He would probably go Ness against him, and Hurt is really good at playing Snake without the grenades. We know this because he's got so many sets against Via, some of them where he comes out on top, but it's still an uphill battle that you are going to have to fight. But it's also one that I think Hurt would win. You do have disjoints as Snake. You can beat Ness, especially in the current meta. And as I said, Hurt is just so good at playing without grenades that I think he would be able to navigate that. And then he would run into Tweak, and I would expect Hurt to beat Tweak, not only because he's beat him in the past, but also slightly matchup-wise, I think Snake is favored there. But honestly, the main reason of why I think Hurt's going to beat Tweak is because there's so many amazing Diddy Kong players running around in Japan right now at the super top level, and the top level Snake players really didn't do super great in 2024. Apollo Kage, Kronos, MBD, all of the results had a bit of a dip. So I think that Hurt is going to be a lot more well-versed in the Diddy Kong matchup than Tweak will be in the Snake matchup. And because of that, I do think that Hurt is going to win that one. And then finally, I think Luis is going to beat Cola. They actually have a dead even record. It's 6-6. Overall, I have Zamba pulled up here, but their only recent encounter is going to happen at the Lit Invitational, where you do have Luis coming out on top. Now, it's actually the exact opposite for Zamba, though. The only recent encounter they have, you're going to have Zamba coming out on top at Luminosity Makes Moves Miami, but I just think that Luis is going to be coming into this event with an insane amount of momentum. He plays well in the rankings. He's been killing it recently, and I think confidence is something that's really important for a player like Luis, and he should be coming into this event with a ton of confidence. And we also haven't seen Zamba on his A game, and if he doesn't get back to that A game status, I think Luis is going to take him out and get himself into that top 8. And then honorable mentions to everyone else. Obviously Tweak, just because he is the LMBM 2-time champ. It feels really weird not even having him in the top 8. But I definitely stick by not having him in the top 8. I think he's got some really tough opponents that he is going to run into, and I don't think he's going to win either of those encounters. And then everyone else on in Syrup, Cola, Mars, Wrath, Riddles, Beastball, Paul, Mutace, DeBuzz, Jackal, Candle, Zomba as well. I didn't have him on here. There's a lot of people that I think could definitely make top 8 at this event. It's going to be a super, super competitive tournament, and let's actually get into talking about that top 8 now. And we have arrived at the top 8. As always, this graphic was made by the lovely Memorization. His link will be down below, so be sure to check it out and sub while you're down there. But our first matchup in this winner's side is going to be Spargo versus Light. And they've got one of the most interesting head-to-heads of 2024, because Spargo has won pretty much every single one of their encounters except the last one. By pretty much, I mean all of them. He's won all of their sets in 2024 except for the last set that they played at LACS. So you do have Light winning their most recent encounter, but I am still going to be going with Spargo to win this one, because just because Light won their most recent encounter, I feel like that's probably more so Light was just playing really good that day, or Spargo was playing not as good that day, than Light actually figuring out what he was doing wrong against Spargo and fully correcting his game plan, or maybe coming in with a new game plan of his own that Spargo just couldn't figure out. Now, could that be the case? Yes, absolutely, but I just don't think that's the case. I think that Spargo will be able to make the adaptations, not only from last set, but just from the previous sets where he was beating Light, figure out what he was doing right, and capitalize on them this time around. Then you're going to have Sonics versus Peep Gut. And I think that Peanut is going to make this upset. Straight from the horse's mouth, he says that he thinks the Mega Man matchup for Sonic is actually pretty good for Mega Man. And I'm tending to agree with him there. There's a lot of ways that Mega Man is able to disrupt Sonic in the neutral. I also think that the offstage gameplay for Mega Man is actually pretty decent when it comes to edge guarding Sonic. I think killing is pretty good for Mega Man. It is still going to be an uphill battle, absolutely, for Peanut. But if he can make it this far in the tournament to the winner's side, I don't see why he can't continue beating some of these top level players. And honestly, until I see Peanut and Sonic's play, I'm just going to say that Peanut is going to beat Sonic's every single time because I believe. On to the loser's side, our first set being MK Leo versus Lima, and they've played twice before with Leo coming out on top both times, and I think the matchup isn't super swingy into either character's favor. The thing that it's going to come down to is patience, specifically Leo's patience, because Lima's going to have a whole lot of it. It's going to be up to MK Leo to out-camp Lima in the neutral, at least in my opinion. I think that is how he is going to have to get the dub. Similar to how Light beat Lima the first time they ever played, it's a little bit easier for him to do it just because Fox is better at whip punishing, also Laser is a better projectile across screen, but just using the gun, so every single time that Lima doesn't approach or doesn't win an interaction, he loses neutral, is going to be super important for Leo. And if you can actually get Lima to play off his game and start approaching Leo is just going to win. That is absolutely going to be his win condition. Make Lima take interactions that he doesn't feel safe taking. Obviously, it's going to be a lot easier said than done, but if anyone can pull it off, it is going to be MK Leo. So expect this to be a good set and also a bit of a long one if it goes how I think it is, at least. Then you're going to have Hurt versus Luis, and they've actually played twice now. Both times were at a pre-local, but Luis ended up coming out on top both times. Now, I think Palutena beat Snake. I think Luis is really, really good against Snake. He's got amazing advantage state and really good item control. And I also think that Japan, just as a region, isn't very good against Palutena. They don't have a lot of top-level Palutena reps. Outside of Shigaimo, I think he's really the only one, and he hasn't been doing as well in recent years. So, matchup-wise, Luis should have so much more experience. And also, based off of their actual encounters, you have Luis coming out on top. So, there's no reasons for me to not bet on Luis aside from a ranking. Next up is going to be Sonics versus MK Leo. And you have Sonics winning their last 4 encounters against Leo, and this is when he was playing better as well. So this is definitely going to be an uphill battle for Leo. I think Joker does pretty decent against Sonic. I would say that's an even matchup. If I had to give it to one character, I would slightly give it to Sonic just because the neutral is a lot easier for him, but Joker has gun in neutral, which is such an important tool. It can literally stop Sonic in his tracks. Now, I am going to be going with Sonic to win this one because, he's won their last 4 encounters, but I do think that this is possible for Leo. He has the tools. He just needs to be playing, amazing to be able to pull that off. Then you're going to have Light versus Luis, and I'm definitely going to be going with Light to win this one. I don't know if Luis has ever beaten Light before, and if he did, it was very early on in Smash also, but that's just a super dominant head-to-head for Light. He's really good against Palutena, and yeah, it's just a tough draw for Luis. And we've got our top 4. Spargo Peanut in the winner's side and Sonic's Light in the loser's side. And for Spargo Peanut, I think this matchup is probably even, not swinging into either character's favor. If I had to give it to one, I would probably give it to Cloud just because I feel like it'd be easier for Cloud to stuff out Mega Man than vice versa. But obviously Mega Man's going to have that massive boon of actually being able to edge guard Cloud, which is pretty massive with the things like forward air or back air as well, both really long, lingering hitboxes. But I'm going to be going with Spargo to win this one because I think Peanut is a player who does a lot of homework and a lot of research, but I don't think he's going to have done that research into Cloud. This is just me completely assuming, by the way. Maybe he's actually super good against Cloud, but Sonic is a character that I know for a fact Peanut has put a lot of time into. He's invested efforts to make sure that he's good in that matchup, and that's why I feel confident that he will be good against Sonic, because I know that the work has been put in. I don't know if that work has been put in with Cloud, but even if it has been put in with Cloud, it is still definitely going to be an uphill battle. You're playing against the active best player in the world, and I don't think that Peanut is going to take that one. Then you're going to have Sonics versus Light, and I'm actually going to be going with Sonics to win this one, which is crazy. I never would have ever guessed that I would predict Sonics over Light, but Sonics has been really successful in their recent encounters, and even though I do think Fox does good against Sonic, one of the best characters of the game versus Sonic, I still think overall it's an even matchup. Maybe if you wanted to force an argument for one character winning, it would be into Fox's favor, but I think it's an even matchup. I think Sonic has proven to be an even matchup because of how good he is at edge guarding Fox. The second that character gets hit off stage, Sonic is just so good at covering all of the flowcharts. So yeah, Sonic has put in his homework. It's paid off in the past, and I think it's going to continue paying off in this set. So in the losers finals, you're going to have Peanut versus Sonics, and I do think that Sonics is going to get his run back. Because I think P-Dot is going to be way more prepared for Sonic than Sonic's is going to be prepared for Mega Man. So after that first set, Sonic's is taken back a little bit. It's like, okay, whoa, maybe I need to look into this blue character. Does a little bit of research. It's not going to be a ton of research, but I think it is going to be enough for him to make his adaptations and get his run back against P-Dot. And in the grand finals, Spargo versus Sonic's El Clasico. And oh my, if you look at the year, it's no longer 2024. The curse is lifted. It's finally broken. And Sonics wins a major, the first major of 2025. And with that, I thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. The sport has been absolutely unreal. Let me know if there's anything I left out, got wrong, or if you want to say hi, leave a comment down below. Be sure to sub while you're down there. And I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.